My name is Kevin Creeden. I'm the Director of Assessment and Research at the Whitney Academy, and I've been asked to speak with you today about those issues or experiences that may place children and adolescents at greater risk for engaging in sexually problematic or abusive behaviors. The types of children who present with these issues are actually quite diverse. They come from a variety of different backgrounds. They engage in a wide range of behaviors. And they also are motivated to engage in these behaviors for many different reasons. As we speak about the issues that may place them at risk, we're going to talk about those as falling into four major categories. The first of these is the child's own sexual experiences or how sexual behavior has been modeled for them in the environments that they grow up in. The most obvious risk factor that falls into this category is the child's own experience of sexual victimization. Many of the youth who present with sexually problematic or abusive behaviors have their own histories of being sexually victimized. But it's important to remember that there's not a one-to-one correlation between sexual victimization and engaging in sexually abusive behaviors. Most of the children who have been sexually victimized do not go on to sexually abuse others. A second significant category, and one that is becoming more problematic, is the child's exposure to pornography. The typical age now when most children first see pornographic images or adult sexual images is roughly around the age of 10 years old. The concern is not that children might view a sexual image, or that they may intermittently view pornography as they go through their adolescence. However, it is concerning when a child is regularly viewing pornography or persistently viewing pornography, because research has shown that this begins to shape both what the child views as normative and encourages the child to act out many of the things that they see in pornographic material. Children can be exposed to pornography in a variety of different ways, by adults in their environment, by older siblings, by discussions and experiences with peers, and by their own curiosity. Sometimes children stumble upon pornographic images as they search for other content or are involved in other activities on the internet. Another factor around this modeling of sexual behavior comes from the child witnessing adult sexual behavior in their homes. This can be either through seeing their parents involved in sexual behavior, or it could be from older siblings involved in sexual behavior. A second major category that we should talk about is the experience of family adversity. In these situations, oftentimes stressors or trauma within the home make adult supervision and adult guidance less available for those children. Those can be things like substance abuse by a parent, mental health issues by a parent, or through family stressors like marital difficulties, and sometimes even financial stressors where parents are out working more and more and no one's at home to really provide support and guidance for the child. A third area of concern would be the modeling of aggressive behavior. Physical abuse in the home or domestic violence in the home, coupled with notions that the way an individual resolves problems or difficulties in their lives is by using dominance or control or threats or manipulation or aggression. And then a fourth factor that we need to consider are the vulnerabilities of the child themselves. Does the child have impulse difficulties? Is it hard to regulate their emotions and behaviors? Perhaps the child has developmental disabilities or intellectual disabilities that makes it difficult for the child to succeed in school, to develop age-appropriate peer relationships, or in some other way makes the child vulnerable to manipulation or abuse by others. We do know from research that children with developmental disabilities and intellectual disabilities are actually more at risk for things like bullying and sexual victimization than other children. These 4 factors oftentimes do not operate in isolation from one another. And therefore, when we treat children with sexual behavior problems, we oftentimes see one or more risk factors from one of these 4 areas come into play. But along with discussing factors that may place children at risk for sexually problematic behavior, we should also look at those things that can help buffer a child or support a child to be more resilient. Among these areas are things like having a consistent structure in their lives, having support and guidance from adults, having positive connections with pro-social peers and activities that they're regularly engaged in. Also, having good sex education. We talked about the exposure that children have to a large amount of pornography on the internet. Frequently, this is not balanced out by consistent good information about sexual development or discussions about healthy sexuality. The more we can offer children information and guidance in these areas, the less of a vacuum we create to be filled with the types of bad information that they're likely to get from pornography. Most importantly, the presence of a consistent, supportive adult in a child's life has been seen as the single biggest factor in helping children be resilient, even in the face of other adversities or difficulties in their lives. Ideally, this supportive adult is a caretaking parent. But oftentimes that supportive adult can be a teacher, a therapist, a coach, a minister, and the various other adults that the child comes in contact with in their life. If we can all step into those roles as a positive, supportive adult for children, we make them less vulnerable to abuse, and we also make them less vulnerable to engaging in abusive behavior themselves. Thanks for listening today. I hope this has been helpful, and have a great day.